Day one of World Championships is upon us, and I hope you guys are as excited as I am. I've got all of your predictions, breakdowns, betting tips, everything you'd want to know about all 32 teams going into day one and beyond of World Championships is coming right up. You're not going to want to miss this. What's up, CoD fans? Welcome back. Good to see you guys. World Championships right around the corner, and I've got a special guest for you guys today. Look at that dog. Weaver dog. There's a big storm going on outside. She's getting a little scared, so she's going to be joining me for this video. We'll see if she'll jump up and give you guys a woof or something like that. This is going to be, I don't know how long of a video it's going to be. This is actually one of the first videos that I put out where I have no game plan. I have zero game plan for it. We're just going to go in and we're just going to dig at it. And I think the best way of doing this video is just going to be by going through the individual schedules for each of the individual pools. If you guys have suggestions or critiques or comments as far as what you'd like to see in the future when it comes to these kind of things, I'll kind of give you an idea as I'm doing them when we go through. I think is the best way of kind of putting it. So to break things down, the first 2 days are pool play coming forward for everything going on with the World Championships. You've got the first 4 pools will be dealing with 2 of their matches. The back 4 pools will be dealing with only 1. Then the next day it'll be flip-flopped, where the front 4 pools, that's hard to say, will be dealing with 1 of their matches, their remaining match, and the back 4 pools will be dealing with the remainders of theirs, which will accumulate in 2. Just as a reminder, if you finish 4th in your pool, you will finish with the top 32 assigned to your name. If you finish 3rd, you'll finish with the top 24 next to your name. And then, of course, the top 16 will play it out in normal bracket situations. So let's go ahead and just take a look at Pool A first. So just as a reminder, here are your 4 teams from Pool A. You've got E United, Elevate, Celtic FC, which is the team that was known as the Boys. They got picked up by the Celtic Football Club team. And then RBL Esports. You take a look at what the schedule is going to give us for the first day. You've got Elevate and Celtic, you got E United and RBL, and E United will then play Celtic and Elevate will play RBL. So essentially you've got the pro teams, they'll be playing up against both of the open teams and vice versa. So here's the biggest key, and I said it once before, Celtic FC is going to beat Elevate, I think, pretty convincingly. I don't know about like 100%, like I can't necessarily get it's going to be a guarantee, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this team find themselves a 3-1. Your favorites in this pool, I think, are E United and Celtic. RBL, as much as I want to see them do well, this is not a day that they're going to, I mean, if they're going to do well in this pool, they have to beat Elevate. You're going to get a good idea as far as what Elevate's going to offer after their first match versus Celtic. If they get blown out by Celtic, I honestly feel like RBL might be able to beat them. Now, if they go 5 or something of that nature, RBL doesn't stand a chance in this pool. E United is going to win both their matches, I believe. I think the matchup between E United and Celtic is, again, going to be the closest one in this pool. So definitely keep your eyes out there. So going into Pool B, you've got Genji, Enigma 6, and Team War, as well as Fuego. And this is a pool that, honestly, it's going to come down to this first matchup between Enigma 6 and Team War, that second one that's listed there. I don't see Fuego winning a set in this pool unless Enigma 6 looks terrible or Team War look a little bit lost. But those are things that I think would have to happen just for them to find even marginal favor when it comes to them even winning potential set. So this pool, I think, really comes down to whatever happens between Enigma 6 and Team War. If Enigma 6 look convincing in that set, I think they could whoever looks convincing in that set, I think could maybe give a run at Genji. Again, Genji will get the opportunity to at least recap what Team War were able to do and probably watch a little bit of VOD in between, because there's a lot of time in between these 2 games. It's actually 6 hours of time in between the scheduled start times. So that's a lot of time for Genji to do some work. Same thing for Team War, though. I mean, for all of these squads, they can go back and they can do some VOD review before they have to come back and play. So you got to keep that in mind. I think the preparation, though, when it comes between those 3 teams in specific, Genji, Enigma 6, and Team War, you got to be feeling like it's going to tilt in favor of the pro teams. Enigma 6, you know, we're still waiting to see exactly what they're going to be able to offer. So it's kind of difficult for them to go into Team War first. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't want to go into Gen G first, but the fact that they don't get their opening matchup versus Fuego to kind of get an idea as far as what is Enigma 6 going to look like is definitely putting us in a weird spot when it comes to actually evaluating how good this team is going to be, right? So for me, this pool, this day comes down to whatever happens between Enigma 6 and Team War. There is also the possibility that Team War could go 0-2 in this day, and then all of a sudden, it's between them and Fuego to decide what might happen. And there's also potential that there could be a 3-way tie here. So these matchups are super, super crucial, and really for me, it comes down to that Enigma 6 versus Team War game. In Pool C, we're dealing with FaZe, Units, Mazer, and Animosity. Should be another interesting one here, I think, simply because the fact that Units have looked good in only a couple of modes, and Mazer have looked good as well, just period. That's going to be the pivotal matchup to watch, I think, is the one between Units and Mazer. There's a lot of things that could go potentially wrong for a team like Units that I worry about them a little bit, simply because I feel like a lot of people are giving a lot of attention to this squad, and at the end of the day, I just don't know if they've really merited the confidence to finish as a top 2 team here. Now, Animosity, I don't think wins a set this, again, kind of like Fuego. I can't see them winning a set here, but even for Units, it's interesting because they've been getting some favor when it comes to like just their name alone, but their statistics don't really favor them outside of what they've been able to do in Respawn. Their Search and Destroy has looked pretty bad, and we know how lacking the practice can be in Search and Destroy. So that's where that setup comes for me in particular, is what happens between Units and Mazer, specifically in the Search and Destroy, because that's where things could get definitely a little bit nitty and gritty. In Pool D, Reciprocity, Envy, Sage, and Legend Status, and this is the only pool where the 2 open teams and the 2 pro teams actually play up against one another. I don't know why that's the case, but it is. So as far as we've seen from both the schedule released on COD Gamepedia as well as the COD World League Twitter, that's what's going to be happening. So big implications here in Pool D. Reciprocity should get a pretty easy win against Legend Status. I think that Team Envy versus Sage game could be very close, very interesting. And pick out a moment here. If Envy lose this game to Sage and then lose to Reciprocity, they very well could just be done, because Sage gets an opportunity to play Legend Status. So at the end of the day here, we might have a pretty good picture as far as who's going to be the number 2 team coming out of this pool, because you've got Sage and Reciprocity playing up against each of their open and pro league counterparts. But if Envy go 1-1 and Sage go 1-1, then we very well could have a situation where ties are coming into play. But if Envy lose both of their games and Sage win both of their games, then all of a sudden it's looking like Sage are going to come out as the number 2, and then we fight on day number 2 with just between Reciprocity and Sage, who comes out on top, which is I think that would surprise just about everybody, but it's very possible. So that first matchup is very important, but I'm mostly looking at the slot, which is actually, it's slated for 8:30 at night Eastern time. The Reciprocity, Envy, and Sage Legend Status, those are 2 that you're definitely going to want to tune into, because I think a lot can happen there. And this Legend Status team, they play with a fire, so they very well could come out and actually beat Sage. Who knows? Pool E, this is where the last 4 pools, they'll only play 1 game per team in the first day. So you got Luminosity, UYU, Singularity, and Vanity. And that Luminosity Singularity game should be good. And then if Vanity are able to beat UYU, which I anticipate them being able to do, that puts that pool in a very interesting spot as well. Personally, you got to be looking at Singularity as potentially being the number 2 out of this pool, but I think Vanity can absolutely make a case for themselves. But it absolutely starts with this game versus UYU. And again, remember that neither of these 2 teams in the open bracket are going to have a chance to go, or none of these teams, period, are going to have a chance to go back and rewatch film until after they're done with their first game. So this is all they get. They will get an opportunity to obviously look more extensively at their other 2 opponents when they played up against each other, because again, Luminosity will play both UYU and Vanity and then flip-flop that again. You know, the teams in the second set will play up, you know what I mean. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic for the back 4 pools. We'll jump to Pool F. This is 100 Thieves with Midnight, Sicario, and Fury. And again, I think your easy front runners here are 100 Thieves and Midnight, but there is consideration that Sicario could come out of this pool as well. I don't think Fury has much of a chance to make a surprise happen here, mostly due to the caliber of opponents that are in their pool. If they were in a different pool, I would think a little bit differently about it, but this is a tough one to kind of picture a place where they come out in the second spot. Midnight Sicario should be a really good game. We won't get that till day 2, but we will get to see how Sicario can handle a tough opponent in 100 Thieves. And then on the flip side, if Midnight, we have had this conversation too many times before, friends, Midnight should handle Fury without a problem. If they're not able to, then you start to question that. So this is going to be an interesting pool to take a look at when we do our recap and our results later on in the evening. Optic and Trainhard will go up against each other, and Evil Geniuses and Carnage will go up against each other in Pool G. And, you know, it's my opinion on this pool is a little bit all over the place. I think going into it, your 2 favorites are obviously Optic and Evil Geniuses, but watching Carnage play during the CMG scouting grounds, if Charles can pop off, there's a potential that this team could surprise anybody in this pool. I kind of had the same feeling about Trainhard, but they've literally gone dark, and we haven't seen or heard much of anything from them since their time at Miami. So I don't know what my expectations are for a team like Trainhard. If you're Optic, though, you got to come out and 3-0 Trainhard. If you're going to make a statement saying that we're contending for a championship, a world championship at that, you need to beat the heck out of Trainhard. If you're not able to beat them in 4, really if you're not able to beat them in 3, but if you're not able to beat them in 4, if it goes to game 5, my worry for Optic goes, I have them initially, my early predictions, sitting somewhere on the top 12, top 8 spot. If they don't convincingly beat Trainhard, I'm looking maybe top 16. Evil Geniuses and Carnage should be a good one, I think, again, just to see where exactly EG has ended up since their time kind of training over the last couple of weeks. They've gotten a lot better. They finished top 10 at Miami. There's potential for them to surprise there. And then to kind of finish things off in Pool H, Splice, Heretics, Aspire, and Hybrid are in this pool. And this one, again, is all up in the air. It will be pro teams playing up against open teams, again, just to kind of start things off. So really, for this is a litmus test, I think, for every single team. There's not much else you can say besides this is literally like when you see like FGC players, they go out and they kind of throw the first round in a set to get an idea of how their opponent is going to play. It's kind of like that. I mean, no one's going to be throwing, but we'll get an idea as far as how all these teams are going to be playing. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to kind of see how that all rounds out. Now, I don't really have anything going here for you guys when it comes down to betting predictions because there's just so many games. What I will do, though, is I will go ahead and tell you some of the games that I'm feeling pretty confident in, as far as where I'm putting some of my money and what else you might want to look into here in day number 1. And I'll just kind of do this pool by pool. So again, we'll go back to Pool A. And maybe next time around I do these videos, I'll kind of do these in partnership with one another. That's what I should have done. Pool A, I've got money on the boys, Celtic FC to beat Elevate, a pretty considerable amount of money. And then the line for RBL to beat Elevate is so favorable that I personally am going to be throwing a couple of dollars at that as well. The other two lines with Celtic playing up against EU, plus 650 is what I was seeing for Celtic to beat EU, which is actually a pretty decent line if you want to throw a couple of dollars at it. But I just don't think that Celtic's going to beat a United at the end of the day. So I wouldn't put much on it. And that's kind of the biggest thing for these first 2 days because the betting lines and the bookies that are out there aren't going to know what to expect either. They're just saying, they literally just rank the teams in their power-hungry spots and say who's the biggest favorites. And then when they're playing up against open teams, the lines are all over the place. So be very careful about how you bet. And definitely do not take any parlays throughout the entirety of the day. Pool B, I didn't bet on anything in here simply because the lines aren't super favorable for anything in specific. I can't see Fuego beating Gen G. I can see War beating Enigma 6, but it's only at a plus 150, so not really worth putting money on because it's too hard to guess. And then as far as War beating Gen G, can't see it happening. Fuego beating Enigma 6, can't see it happening. I wouldn't put any money down on this one. If you were to bet anything, though, it would be the Enigma 6 and Team War line. If you're feeling more confident in one team or the other, each of those I think are pretty safe, you know, as far as they're not like super favorable to either team, so there's an opportunity for you. In Pool C, again, I've only put one bet down, and that's on Mazer to beat Units. I would be very careful, I think, with all of the other ones. I can't see Animosity winning a set in this pool. If they were to do it, it would probably be against Units. But that's something that, again, take a look as far as how Animosity plays phase and then come back and bet that one if you want to. If they look good during it, bet them. If they don't, skip it. But I've got Mazer. I put a little bit of a more comfortable bet on Mazer beating Units. I feel just more strongly about that team overall, and what we saw from Units was a little bit disjointed. And again, you got to remember that that team is mostly still comprised of open bracket players. So as far as preparation in the CWL, they don't really have that like other pro teams do. So that's why I kind of favor Mazer in that one. Pool D, Legend status is getting plus 1,000 against Reciprocity. Don't touch it. Sage, I actually put some good money on Sage to beat Envy. I think that's one that could definitely go in their favor. It's one that I feel pretty comfortable about. As much as I want to give support to Envy and those guys, I still think that that's a very good line to bet. Even if you were still favoring Envy, I still think the line that Sage is getting is one worth betting. I did not see, last I checked this a couple days ago, any lines for Envy versus Rec or Legend versus versus Sage. Again, those are the late night games. I would personally wait, get an idea as far as what all 4 teams look like before you bet that one. If Sage is looking like they're not going to get a very huge line against legend status, you know, if it's like not like a minus 400, maybe there's potential for you guys to bet that and make some money, because I don't see Sage losing to legend status. And then we need to see what Envy and Reciprocity look like before we can bet on those. And then to finish out everything else, Pool E, Singularity, I actually put a couple of dollars against LG, simply because LG is a little bit one-dimensional, I feel like. So there's potential, I think, there for there to be a surprise. I didn't put much on it. It was just the line was super favorable, so I threw a couple of dollars. If it pays out, sweet. And then I also have Vanity. I put a pretty comfortable bet on Vanity to beat UYU. Again, I just don't think UIU is any good, flat out. I think that this team, even though they all have pro experience, they don't have any experience with each other. So there's not much of an advantage, again, there for UIU going up against Vanity. And actually, technically, I think Vanity has more team chemistry and more team cohesiveness and familiarity playing with one another than actually UIU does. At least barely. Willett's, of course, more recent addition. But this Vanity team's been together since before Anaheim. So they've been playing and working together. So I would be very careful about this team going forward. Pool F, I didn't bet any of these. Again, Sicario was getting a very favorable line, plus 650 versus 100 Thieves, but I can't see them beating them. And kind of the same storyline, I don't personally believe that Fury can beat Midnight, so the plus 425 there is tempting, but I'm not going to bet that whatsoever. Pool G, I actually threw up just, again, I put $2 down on Train Hard to beat Optic. The line is super favorable, so it's worth at least throwing a couple dollars, and it pays out good. So that's kind of what I had for that one. The plus 575 last I saw for Carnage to beat Evil Geniuses, which is, again, it's also not a bad bet to put down if you're looking to get a little feisty with your dollars, but again, I don't feel comfortable that Carnage will actually beat Evil Geniuses, so I'm staying away from that. And then Pool H, I've got Aspire beating Splice. Again, minimal dollars. Anything can happen in this pool, and the lines are not super gracious to taking a couple of dollars here or there, so I put a little bit more on that one just as kind of a risk, but it is a risk, so definitely be careful about that. Now, that's a lot of stuff, and I don't like the way that format felt at all. While I'm editing this video, I'm probably going to hate most of it, and I'll come back with something a little bit better for our recap. The recap will go through all those pages, who beat who. You'll also see the win-loss ratio. You'll have the standings updated up top. I'm hoping that's enough information to get us by with good production level. If you can think of anything else that you'd like to see, or things you'd like to change, or things that you don't really feel like translate well on mobile, please let me know in the comments, because we got a lot of days to kind of nitpick and kind of pinpoint what exactly works for this style of video. I'll try to be as quick as possible, because I don't want to go too long-winded. This will be the longest video we do all week. You can put it on that. We're not going to be digging deep into like this team did better on Hardpoint. I'll give you some tidbits as we go through the recap and what you need to be looking for into the predictions for day 2. But then beyond that, when we get into the bracket, it's going to be, again, very quick hit stuff. I want to just give you guys information, because there's a lot of COD to watch, and if there's anything big PogChamp worthy, I'll probably throw a clip in. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Again, let me know in the comments below. Until the next video, though, hope you guys all keep holding it down. Much love. Thank you so much. Love you. Later. Bye-bye.